Overcrowding in high schools has become an issue in KISD, with enrollment numbers exceeding 2,000 students at all 4 public high schools. All these schools also are currently using portable classrooms, and currently 3 of those schools are over their suggested capacity. Do you believe that there is a need for a 5th public high school? Why or why not?
I think there will be a need for a 5th public high school. I think before we make that $100 million bond issue decision, and perhaps more, I'd like to see us make sure that the Career Center is fully utilized. I would love to see the Career Center as a standalone 5th high school, but I would like to see that done in such a way that students at the four current high schools who may have an interest in UIL activities, who wanted to go to the Career Center, could still maintain their UIL activities and then go to the Career Center. So I think a 5th high school is something on the horizon. I think we have to plan for it. I think some of the things that we have in place to help us prepare for the 5th high school and to prepare for choices for our students are the early college high school, the Career Center. We have Texas Bioscience over there in Temple, and we're starting a STEM Academy, beginning that. So hopefully that'll do, those programs combined will do 2 things. One thing would be take the pressure off the 4 existing high schools, and then I think a second thing that in the political landscape we're in now that's equally important is it'll help us give our students choices. So I think all those things together really are where we are now in KISD.
You mentioned a little bit about the Career Center, and you mentioned some of what you would like to see the Career Center used for. More directly involved with that, would you like to see the Career Center continue to be what it is, or would you like to see the Career Center expanded into a 5th public high school without the use that it has now?
I opened the Career Center. I was executive director there for a year, and I like the Career Center the way it is now because I feel like something like 475 certifications this year for our kids. So I like the Career Center as it is now, but I think one of the things that you can say about career, I may not be answering your question, Quentin, but one of the things you can say about career education is it has to change all the time. And so I'd like the Career Center to stay on that path and always be changing and always be current and always getting our kids ready to go out and get the certifications they need, or to articulate their course credits to the college and get college credits where they're at the Career Center. So I feel like maybe I didn't really answer your question. Is that what you're shooting for?
More directly, would you like to see the KISD Career Center stay as just a Career Center, or would you like it to be also combined into a 5th high school that offers those Career Center classes?
I want it to be combined to be a 5th high school. And I think, we have pathways right across the sidewalk there. Mm-hmm. And so, and what, you've been at the morning meetings, you've seen the building plans for the Career Center. So I think, man, it's just really, it's kind of almost low-lying fruit to combine the Career Center and pathways and make this incredible 5th high school. So that's what I would love to see.
KISD high schools, as you know, their cafeterias currently cannot accommodate all of their high school students during lunchtime. One of the options given to students has been open campus lunch periods. Many of these students are leaving campus now and walking to get their food. Accidents and altercations have become an issue during these times. What solutions do you suggest to feeding all of these students in an efficient and a safe way?
Well, to close a high school campus is very, very difficult. I personally would like to see an hour and 15-minute lunch for the kids. They're young adults, they have responsibilities. In an hour and 15 minutes, they could go where they need to go. They could travel relatively safely. We could use that time during the school day, the 30 or 45 minutes for club meetings, for tutorings. It provide a lot more flexibility to the students currently enrolled. So before we start closing all these campuses and jamming the kids up, and I would love to see our food services guys continue to serve things like pizza and Chick-fil-A and those kinds of things that are going to attract our students to stay in the cafeteria. And then, of course, if there's some changes in the federal guidelines, that might be easier to do. And I don't know if it's probably not mainstream thinking, but that's where I'm on that one.
Various reports have happened with on and off campus fights, more particularly during the fall semester, during those open campus lunch periods as well as after school. How should the district police as well as local police departments work more cohesively to prevent these school fights from happening in the future throughout KISD after school or during open campus lunch periods?
There's a lot of things involved in that answer. I think the first of the things that's important to me is that you give our kids in our public schools a reason for being there, that you develop relationships, that the administrators and the teachers in the building develop relationships with our kids, that we have a discipline management system that's fair and that works with kids and keeps them, manageable so we can get them back in school and keep them in school. I think the community and the churches need to reach out to the kids. I think the police department and the KISD police department need to work closely together. And when these guys are out there fighting before or after school or to and from school, then they need to face the consequences of that behavior. And then we need to start working with, the school district needs to start working with parents and parent groups to get them involved and start giving these guys that are out there messing around and fighting something better to do. And get these guys involved in extracurricular activities and get the community as a whole to reach out and start helping these kids. Because if you give them something to do and if you give them something to stay straight for, they're going to do it. And I think we just need to start beefing up those opportunities for those guys. It's going to take everybody, and it's going to be hard work.
Over the last 2 years, special education had been a point of needed improvement in KISD. And in 2015, the district was investigated for a number of reasons, including needing adjustments to its policies for special education, its referral process to give students the services they need, and the lack of consistent student tracking. And then, as you will well know, in January in 2016, the TEA told the district that they had reached 100% of their compliance with TEA standards. What changes or adjustments do you believe still can happen that will help to improve the special education programs offered here in KISD?
I think one of the reasons we got the 100% from the agency was the board ordered 2 or 3 years ago a complete audit, an external audit of special education services. And those guys came in a great job, and that kind of set the groundwork for us to get where we are today. But special education is always going to be on the radar because it's complicated. You could take the approach that the special education students in our schools, we're kind of like a hospital for those guys. We're trying to educate them. We're trying to work on their behavior. We're trying to get them some job skills. So that's a difficult task for a public school to handle. And I think we've got a good start where we are now. We've completely reorganized the special education department. We've added staff, and we're beginning a much closer supervision stage. We've added of the people in the field doing the testings and things. We've added a parent community resource room. So those are steps in the right direction. But I think we need to keep moving and there seems to me to be a real animosity between the special education parents in KISD and the district. And so the only way we're going to chip that down is by developing those relationships with those parents and getting those parents to trust us and then move forward and service those kids. It's hard work, and it's going to take some time, but certainly worthy of it every minute of the time we can do.
In January also, the TEA released its preliminary A through F ratings for all schools and school districts throughout the state. Many of the KISD schools received D and F grades in those specific categories. How do you help, or how would you plan to help improve these ratings as a whole going forward for KISD?
Well, first of all, the rating systems were bogus and really didn't make a lot of sense at all. The agency itself released those ratings just as the governor and the lieutenant governor are trying to go about to get a voucher system in place. They released them a year earlier than they really intended to, and then the darn guys released them and said, hey, by the way, we're just releasing them. Don't use these for comparison or anything. We're just going to release these things. Man, I'm a junior high school principal, seated junior high school principal in Salado. So at my school where I could get a poor rating on, it's one area. If my kids in my school or our school in Salado miss more than 10 days, or any school in the state of Texas, those kids miss more than 10 days, then my rating is going to be impacted by that. Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, what do you do with a sick child? What do you do with the kids that move and just aren't able to come to school for lots of different reasons? And how is that part of my rating? So it's real frustrating. I think the other thing that's really important to me is the agency has moved the goalpost. To me, it's like you're playing a football game. It's in the third quarter and it's a tie game, or you're really losing in the case of public schools. It's a tie game, and all of a sudden the coach comes out and says, hey, we're going to move the goalpost. Well, what are we doing here? The agency has moved the goalpost so many times, and they say, well, we did this so the parents will understand the ratings. Well, that's really a bunch of junk. The parents can't understand the ratings because they have been continually changed for the last 10 or 15 years, and so no one's going to really know. And then what I found as a seated principal, parents don't care because it's so confusing to go again and again and again. And then, by the way, it's going to cost a lot of money and time for the school districts to understand and put those things in place. So to me, it's just kind of ridiculous that the agency and the legislators would do that. And I think it's all about the voucher system, and it's all just another way to make the public schools look bad.
And more directly to this question, what do you think is some of the things that maybe the district can do once there is a finalized A through F rating system? What do you think are some of the things that the district can do to improve their overall perception from TEA when it comes to these ratings? What are some of the things you hope that the district can work on before August of next year?
Well, I think one of the things that we always have to work on in terms of improving students' performance is we're going to have to start finding the absolutely best teachers we can find. We're going to have to pay those guys, and we're going to have to keep them in KISD. We're going to have in-service trainings that helps those teachers develop unique and engaging lesson plans. And then we have the data in KISD right now to see where our weaknesses are. The district has just purchased 2 or 3 different new, programs that show student performance at the beginning of the year, student performance at the middle of the year, and then student performance at the end of the year. So we can take the data from those programs, plug it into our curriculum pieces, and see where we're weak. But I think a hard part for us right now in Killeen is we're going to have to align it through K through 12. And I think we have in KISD, I think we have about, I'm not sure about my numbers, I think it's around 46%, or it might be 64%, I apologize, I'm not sure, of economically disadvantaged students. Well, if you're going to educate a student in Killeen, you better be darn good at working with kids that are economically disadvantaged, that either don't go to a home or go to a home that's fragmented, they don't have a mom and a dad. And so we're going to have to start seeing the data on those kids early. Kindergarten, pre-K, and then we're going to have to start working with those kids year after year to make sure they're progressing as we need them to move through to pass those end-of-course tests and graduate high school. So it takes a K through 12 carefully articulated program based on disaggregation of data and the skills of our classroom teachers. I think one of the things to me that we really need to do is, KISD is a $344 million bureaucracy, and I mean, that's not a good word in America, but I sure would like us as the school board and us as community members to soften that bureaucracy, to make that bureaucracy, and I'm not criticizing, but make that bureaucracy even more about kids and about growing kids and celebrating those successes. And we got all kinds of data, we get data shoved down our throat. But I noticed about how kids do on STAR, how kids do at summer school, how kids do on EOC test. But I noticed one of the data that isn't pieces of data that's not measured was the number of economically disadvantaged kids we got in college. And I thought, what a crime! We are absolutely killing ourselves getting these kids in Central Texas colleges, and getting our kids in major universities. But no one wants to celebrate that success. I mean, what more could you ask for than take an economically disadvantaged kid who's been struggling his whole life, trying to get through the things, and then we do some things right in KISD and get that young man or woman in college, and no one wants to talk about it. Well, my goodness, what are we doing here?